Now, the Trump administration last month deployed 1,500 active duty troops to the US-Mexico border. Their roles include enhancing security and assisting in the airlift of over 5,000 undocumented migrants from detention centers in San Diego and El Paso. Now, protests erupted across the United States over the weekend against the Trump administration's intensified crackdown on illegal immigration. In Los Angeles, hundreds of demonstrators rallied against U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, over its increasing deportations and arrests, including those of non-criminal migrants. Similar scenes played out in Dallas, where activists marched in opposition to President Trump's immigration policies. ICE has ramped up arrests nationwide, detaining between 900 to 1,200 people per day, which is a sharp rise from the daily average of 311 in the fiscal year 2024. And to understand more on this, I'm joined by Ambassador Rahul Chhabra, who's been the former Secretary of Ministry of External Affairs. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you so much for joining us at this broadcast on DD India News Hour. Now, if we talk about it, America's three biggest trading partners are hit with tariffs. White House has addressed this as a bold step, whereas Donald Trump says Americans may feel some pain too, but this is for a greater good. First of all, sir, what was the need to impose these tariffs on China, Mexico and Canada specifically?
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me on your show, Deepika. The main reason that President Trump himself has quoted is the inflow of fentanyl, the opiate, which is creating a great sort of epidemic in the United States. It's supposedly 50 to 100 times more powerful than heroin, and it's quite easily available in the streets on the cities in the United States. The second reason is illegal immigration. So President Trump is targeting sort of to get a decline in both these inflows into the United States, and he's targeted these three countries. There is a lot of fentanyl coming in from Mexico, and the raw material for that comes in from China. Very little amount comes in from Canada. So that's on the fentanyl front. Illegal immigrants, of course, we know the Mexican border. And of course, now lately, even from the Canadian side, there has been a flow of illegal immigrants coming in. So President Trump is addressing those issues through the tariff route. So it really doesn't have so much to do with, of course, he's hoping that jobs will come back to America. And because of the high tariffs, companies will set up operations in America, and therefore Americans will also benefit. But the immediate sort of target is to bring down the other two flows that I mentioned at the beginning.
And when we talk about it, when we look at it, what could be the possible overall impact on the economy? Because as a reaction to it, we've seen that markets are already facing the music.
That's very right, because it will have quite a deleterious impact on the economy, because businessmen don't really like uncertainty. And this has really put a lot of uncertainty into the markets, into economic policy, and tariffs is one of the most important policy instruments available, and it's being used so widely, and there is sort of more being threatened. So we are not trying to calm the markets in that sense. These are actually ruffling the markets. So at this sort of moment, businessmen are going to be reluctant to invest. They're going to be holding back their investments. Investments already committed will not really come on stream because they don't know how it's going to flow. Where this is all going to lead and where it's going to end. At the end of which only the conscious decision, because once they put their money into plants, then, it's a long-term, very long-term commitment, 15, 20, 30 years. It's a lot of money put in for that much time. So they really don't like this sort of uncertainty, businessmen.
Indeed. And Ambassador Chhabra, when we talk about it, the next tariff threat is to the European Union now. What would be the benefit that the US will draw out of it? And also when we talk about its repercussion, how would this impact the European Union trade and specifically the supply chain?
It's going to have a huge impact. The first thing is that now people know that this is no longer just bluster. because initially people were a little concerned that maybe when President Trump comes in, he will not actually do it. He was just saying it, but now he's actually done it. But if you notice already, he talked about 60% on China, and the actual figure is now 10% on China. So there is the scope for negotiation and bargaining. So hopefully the EU has sort of seen the writing on the wall. I'm sure a lot of back channel phone calls will be going on. A lot of meetings will be happening both in Brussels and in Washington with the two sides trying to resolve this so that things don't really come to a head and the imposition doesn't really happen.
Now, Ambassador Chopra, tariffs are a very powerful and proven source of leverage for protecting the national interest. But how do you see this step of Donald Trump as? Is this the right time to exercise his powers given the global headwinds currently in existence?
I mean, from his point of view, he has promised his electoral base that he'll be doing it. So the sooner he does it, gets it under the carpet and says, look, it's all done and dusted, I've met my promises, he makes him a stronger president. So from his point of view, there is no better time than this one. From the global point of view, with the already uncertainties, the wars in Ukraine still going on, Gaza still sort of settling in, it may not be such a good time. But then what we have to see from India's standpoint is that where can we sort of plug into these new supply chains which are likely to open up. These are opportunities that are just going to come and go. And they're coming now quite fast. So if we have our ears and eyes to the ground, we are able to sort of spot those opportunities. This is the moment to sort of try and step in and look at filling those gaps, because India at the moment does not supply, though we have a positive trade balance with the United States. Unlike many other countries, we have a positive with the United States. But this is the time to sort of, purchase a bit more from the United States and look at filling up the gaps, which will probably happen when these supplies from Mexico and the other countries in the European Union are withdrawn.
A very important point pointed out by Ambassador Chopra. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us and bringing us a rounded perspective on the developing issue.